Hello, and thank you for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I am David Pendergrass. Last time on the marriage series, I did a healthy belief number 1, that a healthy marriage is when a person is making a commitment or a covenant with the other person. They're married to the person, not married to a feeling about a person. They're committed to the person, they're not committed to a feeling about it. It's agape versus eros. They have a commitment kind of love, a groovy kind of love, as Phil Collins told us a long time ago. I wish he'd have said a groovy kind of love is a love based on commitment. Today, we're talking about something a little different, which is a healthy belief number 2. Healthy belief number 2 is a healthy marriage is the joining of two independently healthy and whole persons. It is not ever 50% plus 50%. It's not 70-30, 60-40, 10-90. It's 100% plus 100%. 100% plus 100% equals 100% awesomeness. Now, when most people think about marriage, they think there's a degree to which that's what negotiation is, David. You marry a person who makes up for your inadequacies. It reminds me of Coming to America. When Eddie Murphy's character, he's going to marry this woman who's trained to be a perfect bride. He says, bark like a dog. And she goes, whoa, whoa. And he goes, a bigger dog, whoa, whoa. And bounce on one leg. And she goes, bounce on one leg. And then on and on, whoa, whoa, whoa. And she bounces away. But remember the part he says, oh, what kind of music do you like? No, just listen. What kind of music do you like? And she goes, whatever you like. Oh, what kind of food do you like? Whatever you like. Okay, that's not healthy. That's called enmeshment. That's when you don't have a self. You only have the other person as a self. That's not it. A healthy marriage is when you have two independently 100% people. The best on-screen visual I've ever seen of this is from a comedy called Stuck on You. And you might... David will have to do with anything. There's hardly no one married in the whole movie. Well, it's perfect. And Stuck on You, Matt Damon's character and Greg Kinnear's character are conjoined twins on the side of this side of the right above their waist, and about 10-12 inches long, and they are best friends, and they're stuck on each other, as it were. They call it Stuck on You, and one wants to be an actor really badly, and one is terrified of being on stage and being an actor. Eventually, they go through and get the surgery where they are separated, and one moves back in town. The one lives on the West Coast, one moves back to the East Coast, and of course, what happens is both go through a form of depression, which no doubt that's what would happen in real life. And at the end of the movie, if you haven't seen it yet, it's some inappropriate parts. Yes, I wouldn't use it in your Bible small group, but but overall, I think it's a funny, easy movie and so forth, and got some good little life lessons and whatever. And no, it's not the Bible. No, it's not all G. If you only watch G movies, then don't watch it. You'll be very offended by it because it's not G. Anyway, so he goes back to the East Coast, Greg Kinnear's character, and he sees his brother Matt Damon again, and they start relating back together. And there's a scene at the very end of the movie where Greg Kinnear's character is now going back to doing plays, and they walk up together to the building. They both have the girls on their side, their girlfriends, and they're attached again. And it's weird because they're attached. They had a surgery where they're detached, but now all of a sudden they are attached, and they get real close. They go, all right, knock them dead, break a leg. And it goes, shh, it rips off the clothes. What happened was they Velcroed themselves together. They Velcroed them. They had Velcro. And so you hear the rip off. And, all right, have a good day. Have a good show. And one goes and sits, Matt Damon's character sits down in the bleachers and watches, or whatever, the chairs, watch Greg Kinnear's character. That is precisely what a healthy marriage is. It's 200% whole, healthy people who choose to get Velcroed. Most marriages in my entire life I've ever seen are not like that at all. They're not 100%. It's like 26% married to a 48%er. No, it's just, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's kind of funny to me. I'm not making fun of the person, but it's way off. It's not two whole people. So belief number 2, once again, is when you believe that a healthy marriage is comprised of two whole, healthy people. Now, well, I'll keep saying this in a second. It's not the union of two immature, incomplete persons who need the other person to make up or compensate for their inadequacies and character deficiencies. She makes me be on time. He makes me calm down when I'm stressed. She makes me read my Bible and pray. He makes me go to church. She makes me organized. Oh, it's so cute. Oh, he calms me down. I'm so worried all the time. He just calms. Oh my goodness, you'll get up divorced. You're not going to make it. Well, David, what if I'm not 100%? What if I'm not perfectly whole, healthy individual? Well, I don't know of anybody who's a perfectly whole individual. I'm saying this as an example as that is the goal. The goal is, and I don't mean, and I mean very particular, I don't mean a person who is 100% all together, but their healthy 100% means they know and they feel fully responsible for their own healthy needs. They know and they feel fully responsible for their own healthy needs. And ideally, they are mature. They are whole. They may not be the perfect Mother Teresa, Dr. Phil rolled into one. Okay. But what makes them 100% is they 100% get it. That the spouse does not make up or compensate from my character deficiencies. That's the reason why this is so common to be done incorrectly is because most people don't understand this in the first place for their own needs. People don't feel responsible for their own selves. Now, what are some of your own healthy needs? What are they? Well, you might say this way. There are internal needs, or internal world and external world. So you and I, okay, I'll say you for a second. I'll use the second person. You are responsible for whatever healthy needs arise in your experience in the internal world. For example, your own beliefs, your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own attitudes, your own spiritual state. This is your character. Your character is a conglomeration of all the beliefs, feelings, thoughts, attitudes, and spiritual states that make up you. You are responsible for your character. Your spouse is not responsible for your character. You're responsible for your character. No other person or being which exists is morally responsible for your own character. God is not responsible for your own character. You are responsible for your own character. I'm responsible for my own character. Those are healthy needs that have to be met. And you have to be responsible for those needs and those impulses and those attitudes and thoughts and whatever that you have inside you. Secondly, the external world. Healthy needs, that you have behavior needs to control your self-control and so forth. Food, water, shelter, physical shape. You are responsible for those things on the outside world to make sure you survive. If someone came up to you, if someone knocked on my door and said, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "What?" And they said, "Well, my lawn looks horrible." And I go, "Okay, well then cut it." I mean, why are you talking to me about that? "You should have cut it." Why would I should have cut it? I mean, I would either laugh or I would say, in a Christianese smile, I mean, that's stupid. Why are you talking about I should cut your grass? It's not my grass. It's not my grass to cut. It's not my lawn. I don't own it. I am not in the least bit morally responsible for taking care of your lawn. It is just like that with your character. I mean, take out the word lawn and put feelings. I am not in the least bit responsible for your feelings. Your lawn is your feelings. I'm not the least responsible for your thoughts, for your attitudes, for your dispositions. I'm not responsible to make sure you have food to eat. I'm not morally responsible. Now, stay with me for a second. Well, David, what if they're starving and what if there's moral needs? I'm not talking about ethics right now of that. What I'm talking about is morally is whether or not if you have the food, I'm not responsible for going into your house, your apartment to make sure that food makes it to your mouth. You're responsible for that. And that's true for being a spouse. Even when I'm married, I take my own lawn with me on the inside. And until I die, my wife is not responsible for my inner or my outer world needs. She is not responsible for my character. She's not responsible for my external food and water and whatever needs. She's not. She's not. She is not. And remember, just because we have a desire for something doesn't make it a healthy need. I have a desire to have sex with beautiful women. I'm a heterosexual male. That's not a need of mine. I might have a healthy desire for thrills or rush or a roller coaster or maybe to do drugs. I might have a healthy desire to enact violence. List whatever your needs are. Well, that's why we obey the moral law and the teachings of Jesus. Just because you have a desire doesn't mean it's a healthy need. Desires are not needs. And if you don't know the difference, you need to read some good books by Christian therapists. You need to call me. Let's do some counseling. You need to talk to someone who knows better. But I've already told you, in essence, healthy needs are things like things over which you're responsible. They arise in your inner world of beliefs, feelings, thoughts, attitudes, and spiritual state, and your external world like behavior, food, water, shelter, and physical shape. They're your responsibility most of the time. Outside of being incapacitated. Well, David, what if I'm on a ventilator in a hospital after a car wreck and they've got to put a food? Yeah, they should do that. Yes. Hospitals are then morally responsible if you're in a hospital to make sure you have enough food to eat and drink. And I get it. We're not talking about times when you're an invalid. I'm talking about in general. When you're married to a person in general, when you have the capacity to do it, do it. And anyway, so here's some examples in the internal world. For example, I am responsible for what I believe about the world, about people, about my in-laws, about other races. I'm responsible for my negative or my positive attitude. I'm responsible for developing skills that allow me to process my feelings appropriately. That's my responsibility to process my own daggum feelings. I'm responsible for developing healthy relationships. I'm responsible for developing habits that increase my discipleship. I'm responsible for processing all of my wounds from my past. I'm responsible for getting the help I need. I'm on and on and on and on. It's me. At 0 point ever is my spouse responsible to make sure those things happen in me or for me. But the external world, I'm responsible for making sure I eat today, I drink today, I have clean clothes to wear. I'm responsible for how I drive my vehicle. I'm responsible for how I treat people. I'm responsible whether I'm responsible at work. I'm responsible whether or not I lie or tell the truth. I'm responsible for those things. Now, immature people think that other people are responsible for meeting their needs. And it's a defining trait of childhood. And many people never move into adulthood and take responsibility for their own needs in their lives. How they feel and how they behave are really other people's fault. That's the sign of immaturity. That's what babies think that, and children think that. And now I have whole generations of people who really do think it's everyone else's fault for why they are. And it's called playing the victim. It's a victim mindset. Not when a person is a legitimate victim, but when they're playing the victim. I cannot overemphasize how much this is earth-shattering when this really starts dawning on a person that you are responsible for these things. Some people, when I have them, it really hits home. Some people go in severe grief because they realize how immature they are, that the character is horrible, and that they've been relying upon mommy and daddy and spousal and boyfriends and girlfriends and it's all everyone else's fault and everyone else's job to make sure I have what I need. I have to make sure look, you know how hard it is for me to wake up in the morning. You know how hard it is, and if you don't wake me up, what am I supposed to do? You know how sleepy I am. You need to grow up. You do. I'm saying this in deep love. You need to grow up. You need to grow up. We have alarm clocks. We've got 4,000 digital things. We've got we've got all kinds of ways that we can wake ourselves up now. And you don't, would David know I don't? I'm locked in a hospital bed. Okay, leave me all the emergency examples out. That's not the point. In general, when most people are not invalids or fully incapacitated or don't have the mental capacity and so forth, if you do have the mental capacity and the physical capacity, you are morally responsible for taking care of these things. It's not the world's job. It's not God's job to make sure you are responsible for these things. You are a free-willed moral agent. Well, David, why in the world get married? I thought I was supposed to marry. A person who then completes me and makes up for all my inadequacies. No, that's not why you get married. If your spouse meets any of these needs in these realms, it is, the word I like to use is, it's a treat. It's a treat. It's just a treat. It's not your spouse's responsibility. That is, it's unhealthy to say or think or demand that my spouse is responsible for meeting my needs. No. You are responsible for getting your needs met. When any other person, even my spouse, meets one of my needs, it is a treat. It's just an act of kindness. That's all it is. Sometimes my wife, Elaine, she probably makes most of the food. Sometimes I do. We kind of go through seasons where I do a lot more cooking than she doesn't. Then she kind of gets burned out. Then I cook, but she does most of the cooking. And sometimes, let's say, for example, she made cookies. We don't hardly ever cookies, but let's say she makes a cookie and it's a real cool treat. Yeah, we got cookies, and she'll Elaine's cookies were always from the prepackaged cookies. I don't know if she's made cookies from scratch before, but that's like for Christmas and special times. And I've same thing with me. If I only make I haven't made homemade cookies like that since I was a kid. But anyway, my son always thought my wife just made them. So he called them Mama's homemade cookies, and they were really from a package until he discovered one day they were from a package, but he still calls them Mama's. Hey, Mama, can I make your homemade cookies? And when I was a kid, I saw my grandmother. She was during Thanksgiving break one time, and she was chomping up these potatoes in a bowl. She was smashing them up. And I said, Grandma, what are you doing? And she said, I'm making mashed potatoes. I had no idea what she was doing. I had no idea. She was, I'm making mashed potatoes. And I looked at her very puzzled. And I said, I thought those came from a box. Because my mom made mashed potatoes, the box version, all my life. And I really thought they came from a box. Of course, they got a good laugh out of that. Okay, so my wife makes a cookie, and she makes it. Now, let's say for a second, she's done this before, because my wife is, in general, sweet. Then she's sweet. I'm sitting here, maybe I'm watching TV or I'm reading a book, and she'll come get a cookie, and she takes a bite or whatever, and then she gives me the cookie in my mouth. She puts it in my mouth. I take a bite, and I go, that's really good. She's feeding me. Now, that's a treat. If I resent her when she stops and she walks away and I go, or even deep inside, just inside, maybe I don't say it, maybe inside there's a little bit of, she owes me. She should never stop feeding me literally to my mouth. I'm not talking about if I'm an invalid. I'm talking when I have the full capacity to get my rear end off the couch or that chair and go grab my own cookies. That's what people do, however, with everything in life. If my wife or my husband stops making dinner, I'm mad at him. That's when you know the difference between when you're receiving something as a treat or you're receiving something because you think you're obligated to receive it. And that's the difference. When you resent your spouse when they don't do X, and that's based on these healthy needs that you're responsible for, you know that you are unhealthy. You are immature. Thanks for listening so far. I'll be right back. It's amazing how much in life we have to deal with money. Well, in the ancient world, they didn't have a lot of money. They used money for taxes and a few other things. But we can learn a lot about how the early Christians used their money and their possessions. If you want a good, quick, short study on some key texts in the New Testament of how the earliest Christians used money, I encourage you to check out the book I wrote called Give It Away. It's on Amazon.com. Give It Away. It's a wonderful study to use for small groups. There are discussion questions in the chapters already written for you. This is a spectacular thing you can use for your church. I hope you'll check it out. Hey, not everybody can be a biblical scholar or an apologist. And I understand that. Everyone understands it. So we have to use good resources to help us save us a lot of time and give us things to think about and maybe some data, a good starting point. If I might be so bold, I would encourage you to read my book, A Skeptic Challenges a Christian. A Skeptic Challenges a Christian on Amazon.com. You can check it out today. It's not expensive. So far, praise God, the reviews have been great. You can use it for small group study, Bible studies, whatever you want. And I think it's going to help encourage you and equip you. Perhaps even a skeptic you know. Maybe you can purchase the book for them. It's in multiple formats. You can listen to the book, Kindle, paperback, whatever it might be. I think it'll bless you.
Would you like Dr. Pendergrass to come visit your church? He could speak and provide classes and training on multiple topics. Visit davidpendergrass.com for more information. Have you visited davidpendergrass.com recently? There are some great things that you can share with your friends.
Okay, let's pick back up where I left off. It is okay to demand that your spouse meet the needs or demands of the marriage, whatever affects the relationship or the family. I am going to talk about that later. I will talk about there are relationship needs that your spouse needs to take care of. There's only a few of them, and I will talk about them later. I will, but I'm not talking about them right now. Those are relationship needs, like between the two of you. I'm talking about now you're individually responsible. So I use this word all the time. And so if your spouse does anything for you, if your spouse ever makes you a meal, that's a treat. If she brought you a glass of water, that's a treat. If he cuts the grass that you both own, that's a treat. If he's a good listener and encourages you in a conversation, that was a treat. If she writes encouraging words on the mirror for you, that's a treat. If he ties your shoe in the morning, it's a treat. If he brings you a bagel in your bath time in the morning, that's a treat. If she reads the Bible to you at night, that's a treat. If he says, honey, let's go to church, that's, and you wouldn't have gone otherwise, that's a treat. If she wakes you up in the morning before she goes to work, just to make sure you're awake, that's a treat. These are they're just treats. They're just like, do me a favor. Again, the key is in your own heart and mind. If the spouse stopped doing it, how would you feel? Now, if I'll give tons of examples of my own marriage. My chief love language, which I'll talk about later too, a love language I will explain later, but my chief one is what's called acts of service. I love being served. I love it. I receive it as love and validation and affirmation, and it's a big deal to me when someone serves me. Almost no matter what it is. I think if I'm being very, how do I analyze that? It's like I feel the weight of them sacrificing their time and energy for me to serve me, and especially if it's something they don't like doing. But I see that as a profound act of love. And I'm probably my close second is quality time. My wife is a very good servant, and she serves me most of the time. She does. So let's say she makes the meals, and she does make most of the meals. That's a phenomenal treat. It's a phenomenal treat. I don't expect her to do it. It's not my wedding vows. I didn't marry a cook. I didn't marry a slave. I married a woman. A Christian woman who has an individual self with individual desires and individual needs. Now, she chooses to feed me, to make the meal. She chooses it, and I receive it as an absolute daggum grace gift treat. I never get mad at her if she doesn't make me a meal. I don't get angry. I don't resent her. And sometimes she'll say this. Sometimes she'll say, I'm burned out, or I'm too busy right now, I got this meeting, or I'm so tired of cooking, you cook. Now, I might feel disappointed because cooking's not my favorite, and secondly, because in general she's better at it, and third, because I love being served. I might feel disappointed, but I'm not mad at her. I'm not mad at her at all, because it's just a treat. That's it, period. It's just like her feeding the cookies in my face. That's all it is. And you'll know, I mean, you know, right? You know, and I know. We all know deep inside when we start feeling acts of resentment. If that's you need to confess that. Confess it to God, own it, and say, you know what? I've been treating all these treats you've been doing for me as obligations on your part, and they're not obligations. I'm responsible for getting my own food, my own water, taking my own shower, being a daggum adult. I'm a man, and you're a woman, and if you're a woman who's been acting like a child, then grow up too and say, I'm a woman. This is ridiculous. Now, David, well, why even get married? Because ideally, you've met a person who loves you and committed to you, and they like to treat you. I mean, hopefully you didn't marry an enemy, or just a dude, or just a gal. You married someone who likes to treat the other person. I love to treat my wife. My wife, I know what her love languages are. I know what is a treat to my wife, and I like to do them. I don't like to do them every second, all the time, whatever. Of course not, because I'm a human being. Sometimes I get tired. Sometimes I'm frustrated or whatever. But in general, I like that woman to be treated by me. Moreover, I don't want any other man to treat her the way I treat her. I mean that I'm making a noun a verb. To give her treats as I give her treats. I am her husband, and I have the great privilege of giving her treats, and she has the privilege, in a loving sense, to treat me. And that's wonderful. But I don't expect it, and she doesn't expect it. That's it, period. That's very important to understand that. And at no time in your marriage do you stop being responsible for getting your own needs met. I'll say that again. At no time in your marriage do you stop being responsible for getting your own needs met. It continues forever. You must have boundaries and take care of your own internal and external needs. You must always do that. You're always responsible. Who made a marriage vow that said, by marrying you, I now relinquish all of myself to your care. I am no longer responsible for anything I do, anything I want, anything I need. It's now completely in your hands. I have been responsible for these things every day of my life until this very moment. Now, however, it's completely up to you. God will judge you at judgment time by how well you took care of all my needs. The answer is, I've never heard it. What dummy would say that in a covenant? No one does, but on the inside, many couples have said that. They have relinquished things they should be responsible for and given it to someone else. And this is extremely problematic, especially when the other spouse is healthier than you are. And they're like, why are you mad at me? Well, you didn't blank blank. Well, it's not my job to do that. You don't love me. Well, yes, I do love you. If you love me, you would feed me. If you love me, you would buy my beer. If you did love me, you would allow me to smoke my cigarettes around you and the kids all. If you love me, whatever. Usually the person who says, if you love me, is wrong. Just take that by default. If you're the person in your relationship that says, if you love me, the odds are extremely high you're wrong. Really, this maybe you might not be wrong. Just assume it for a second. I would take the default that's wrong. That if you love me usually is just a manipulation phrase. Now, David, well, I don't say that. Good for you. Do you think it? Do you think it? If she really loved me, if he really loved me, you'll know you do because that's the resentment on the inside. Then the question is, wait a second. Am I mad at him right now because he didn't try to meet what I am responsible for? Did I just really want to treat and I treated it like a need? Do you have an anger or rage problem? That's your problem. It's not your spouse's problem. It's your problem. If you have an anger problem, are you bad at talking about your feelings? Most men are bad at talking about your feelings. Well, that's your problem. It's not your spouse's problem. Your spouse is not responsible to make sure you learn how to talk about feelings. I don't do all that. I'm a man. Scratch your genitalia and drink your beer. Oh, I'm a man. That's the dumbest image in media. It's so dumb and ridiculous and unhealthy. It's your fault. It's your problem that you can't talk about your feelings. She wants to talk about feelings all the time. Well, why you want to talk about them feelings? She wants to talk about feelings because she's a human being. Most females are more mature in this area. Now, does that mean you have to talk about feelings as much as she does? No. She'll talk about feelings until she sucks all the wind, the breath out of the earth. That's what good feeler types will do. I'm just not really, but kind of. Are you a mama's boy? Daddy's girl? You can't get over that because they get more of you. That's your problem. It's not your spouse's problem. Do you prefer to hold on to grudges or resentment instead of forgive? And that's your problem. It's not your spouse's. Do you have a drinking problem? Well, that's your problem. It's not your spouse's. Are you not good at spending money wisely? Do you have a spending problem? Well, that's your problem, not your spouse's. Do you have a pornography problem? That's your problem. It's not your spouse's problem. Are you lazy? Are you always late? Are you an immature Christian? Do you have high anxiety? These are your problems. They're not your spouse's problem. Do you still make decisions because of past wounds? That's your problem. It's not your spouse's. Are you a needy person? That's your problem. I love what Henry Cloud says this. The one with the least need is in control of the relationship. The one with the least need is in control of the relationship. The needy people are the weaker person in the relationship. They just are. They're always chasing after the person and come fix them. Now, if you want more of these kind of issues, go read the book Boundaries in Marriage. Boundaries in Marriage. Boundaries in Marriage. Go read it. Memorize it. Boundaries in Marriage. Now, it's crucial to respect your spouse's boundaries. That is, don't attempt to take over your spouse's responsibility over his or her internal and external needs, since it is your spouse's responsibility. When you take over your spouse's needs, especially when she's not aware of it, you keep your spouse immature and stymied in growth. You don't want to take over that for that person. Well, they just get so nervous, I better do it for them. When you do that, you are hurting your spouse. You're hurting your spouse. You're helping your spouse be a baby or immature in that area. Well, he just doesn't like talking about feelings, so I had to do all the talking for him. I'm not talking about when a person is they're genuinely, their legs are broken and you got to walk to the store for them. Of course. I'm talking about when they do have the capacity, even if it's minimal, it's their responsibility to learn how to do it. Don't do it for them. Ask yourself this question. Here's a good test. Ask yourself this question. Do I ever feel anxiety when my spouse is upset? Do I ever feel anxiety when my spouse is upset? If you do, you have a boundary problem. Do I feel a need to fix it? If you do, you have a boundary problem. Do I ride the waves of emotion that begin in my spouse? They begin in my spouse, they end in you. You have a boundary problem. What needs of my spouses am I meeting? You have a boundary problem. It is crucial not to sit back and expect your spouse to come to meet your needs. This makes you needy in the relationship. You ask yourself, am I needy? Who is more needy in the relationship? Do I feel a need to keep chasing or pursuing my spouse? Well, those are hard questions to answer, but answer them. Now remember this. There's people usually get mad at me and say, you sound like you want to be divorced. No. Taking responsibility for your own character, your values, your behavior, it doesn't mean that you live independently of your spouse. That's divorce. One more time. Well, then why get married? Well, hopefully you find someone who loves you and wants to treat you by meeting some of your needs. But the second your spouse doesn't meet one of your needs and you feel resentment, then you know you have bad boundaries. You and I need to take hardcore inventory on this issue. You've got to be real clear on this one. You got to be real gut level honest with yourself. Do I blame my spouse for my character deficiencies? Do I expect my spouse to meet up for all my problems? Do I expect my wife to compensate? Do I expect my husband to do X, Y, Z? Do I resent him or her when they don't do it? If so, you need to own it. You might even journal this stuff. You might re-listen to this podcast 30 times. You might want to go read the book Boundaries in Marriage. You might want to journal this out. And what you need to do afterwards, secondly, if I were counseling, I would say is you need to say that to your spouse. You need to own it and confess it. I confess to you that I have been resenting you when you don't do X, Y, Z, or I have been mad, or I've been angry, or if we argue over times where I really thought you were responsible for this blank, 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 but in fact it was my need all along. I was responsible for it. That was my lawn to take care of. And I blamed you, and I'm so very, very sorry. I was wrong to do that. It was not your responsibility. It was my responsibility. It is still my responsibility. It's not yours. And I'm sorry that I got mad at you when you didn't make food. I'm sorry when you didn't do my laundry for me. I'm sorry I got mad at you. I'm sorry I was mad at you when you didn't make my lunch. I was sorry I was mad at you because that was wrong and silly and immature of me. I shouldn't have been so immature like that, but I was. I was immature, and I am a little bit still, and I'm trying to work on that right now. And it's my covenant to you. My commitment is I'm going to get real gut level honest. I'm going to make an inventory of all those things I'm responsible for. I'm going to read this book David talked about called Boundaries in Marriage, and I'm going to read that carefully, and I'm going to be a new man or a new woman. I'm not going to take responsibility for, not only I don't want you to take responsibility, secondly, I'm not going to take responsibility for things you're responsible for because I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to harm you. I want you to be 100% person married to 100% person. I want the healthy Christian practice of believing that it takes two people who are 100% committed to being responsible for their own needs getting met. And then if you treat me, I will love that. That'll be so sweet. And I will treat you as often as I want to and as often as I can. But I will treat you. And I can't wait for you to treat me. But they are just treats. And baby loves some treats. Speaking of baby love treats, that's another podcast about sex. Anyway, all right. Hope this helps. Think on such things, and I'll see you next time. Well, the conversation isn't finished. You can always reach out to me on social media. Are you on Facebook? I am too. At Glimpse of the Kingdom. Glimpse of the Kingdom on Facebook. Be sure to like it, and you can see updates there. Also, if you're on Twitter, check me out at Dr. D. Pendergrass, at Dr. D. Pendergrass, or at Glimpse the King, and I try my best to respond to comments and questions on there as quickly as I can. If you want more, there are many more resources on the podcast and my blog. Go to my website, davidpendergrass.com, and you can see a full list of the podcast, and my blog is available for free. Are you active in a church right now? I'd be happy to come out to your church and do all kinds of classes and workshops there. Check out davidpendergrass.com, davidpendergrass.com for more information. And may God in His great grace give you even just a glimpse of His kingdom this week. See you next time.